Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Smith. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm a African American man with short black hair, wearing a gray sweater with a white t-shirt underneath. I'm also wearing black glasses, and there is a tan background behind me with the fire alarm right above. Um, I am a presenter for the AAA. Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Smith, and today I'll be discussing the Year of Return and Beyond, which is an analysis of the new Back to Africa movement. Today, we'll be primarily focusing on the country of Ghana and African diasporic populations moving or repatriating back to the continent. So a little about me. My name is Jordan Smith once again. I am a fourth year anthropology and African American studies major, and I attend the University of California, Riverside. My studies primarily focus on African and African diasporic populations. So the original Back to Africa So the original Back to Africa movement occurred sometime during the late 18th century when different African diasporic populations in the Americas sought to repatriate to Africa through what is now Sierra Leone and Liberia. Through that repatriation process, there were problems and still are, um, though this was one of the first major attempts of descendants of enslaved Africans attempting to settle within Africa in order to escape systemic racism and slavery. The new movement and why now? So many African and other African diasporic populations are still dealing with the onslaughts of slavery and white supremacy. To your right, we have a depiction of a Black Lives Matter protest. And through these constant protests that have been happening for years and years and years, we've realized that the United States does not value the lives of Black folks like they do others. So, what many have done is moved from the United States and gone and repatriated to Africa. So, recently, the Republic of Ghana has sought efforts to recognize and invite the descendants of enslaved Africans to the continent, specifically to Ghana, and which eases the process of repatriation. Why Ghana? So in 2001, Ghana's right of abode was implemented so that African diasporic populations can go to Ghana and resettle as well as obtain citizenship. Also, the year of return. So Ghana has recognized this 400 years of separation and wants to commemorate that by inviting African diasporic populations to back to the continent. Beyond the return, which is a continual commemoration of repatriation of African diasporic populations, cultural and ancestral heritage. So many of the enslaved Africans were taken from West Africa. There were African enslaved Africans taken from other parts, but the hub was primarily in West Africa. This cultural and ancestral heritage attracts many African Americans and others of the diaspora because many realize that this is their closest connection to Africa. Linguistic compatibility is also important since Ghana is an English-speaking nation. It would be difficult for certain diasporic populations to, let's say, integrate into the culture of Senegal, which is a French-speaking nation. And historical significance. So many Black activists have visited Ghana, including W.E.D. Du Bois, who was later buried, and that Ghana is also historically significant for being the first Black nation to separate to gain its independence from a European power. So commercial DNA testing. Companies such as Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, African Ancestry, and many others allow African diasporic populations to trace their ancestry back to different regions of Africa. Although the science behind it is not 100% correct, They're often used as tools to create reconnect with distant African relatives. With these tools, you're able to understand where exactly your ancestors were enslaved from, and understand the cultures and customs of your ancestral homeland. So, for example, you have commercial DNA testing from 23andMe. These tests are not 100% accurate, and I want to state that first and foremost, but they do give you an estimate of where exactly your ancestors might have been from. So, for example, my first section is West African, and right below it, it shows Ghanaian, Liberian, and Sierra Leonean. Then it falls into different categories, but what these tests allow you to do is look and see who have taken the test in Africa and compare your results so that you're able to reconnect and rediscover your African ancestry. So here's another example of a test that I've taken. This is Ancestry DNA, and through these, though although these results don't look nearly as similar to the others, it does give you an estimate of where your ancestors may have came from. So movement data. So there's now an estimate of 3,000 to 5,000 African Americans in Accra, which is the capital of Ghana. Back in 2000, the estimate was about 1,000. So it's a lot more than there were 20 years ago. The estimation does not account for African diasporic populations for others, nor does it account for those living outside of the capital. So it is currently a struggle to receive Ghanaian citizenship, but many are eager and eagerly awaiting to become citizens of the nation. Um, about a year ago, about 100 African Americans who have lived there in Ghana for a while have received citizenship in a huge ceremony. Um, but this is just one of the ways where repatriation occurs. So the effects of the movement. Uh, Autosomal DNA testing is becoming more popular to connect with distant African relatives. For example, I've taken a few tests and I was able to connect with distant African relatives from Madagascar to Morocco to Nigeria to Ghana. It all varies and it really tells where how massive or expensive the Atlantic slave trade was. Due to these tests, African Americans are starting to attend tribal naming ceremonies in order to reconnect with their lost culture. So there are several naming ceremonies that occur, whether it be from Igbo or Yoruba tribe leaders. They'll actually come to the United States, have a ceremony to give people their new names. And it's all a cultural process of understanding where and where your ancestors came from, understanding culture uh, in comparison to African cultures and such. Also, the spread of music genres such as Afrobeats, hip life, Afrofusions has made the movement more popular and has also promoted the exploration of West African cultures. Together, Somo DNA tests and music are inviting African Americans and others of the diaspora to engage in the Back to Africa movement or the new Back to Africa movement. All right, and that is all. Thank you for coming. And if you have any questions, feel free to join my 30-minute session.